Hey, Nitro Dave with Nitrous. Today I'm here to talk to you about our new ProMax Nitrous controller. For you guys that have been waiting, we appreciate the patience that you've had with us to get this thing released. We've worked hard to make sure that we've covered all of our T's, put the thing through tons of testing, and we even have more features coming. We've also been making sure that the instructions are 100% so that it's easy for you to follow. We're here in the R&D room. There will be some background noise. The guys are working. So if you hear something, just bear with us and we'll come back to where you can hear us. All right, so let's talk about the ProMax. I know that not everybody's going to make it through this whole video at once, so I'm going to go ahead and cover some of the basics real quick before we start getting into the features and tuning tips of the controller. Our goal is to have this unit ready to ship by the end of the week. We are currently taking pre-orders. The only thing that we're currently trying to get finished up is the instructions. This controller does so much, and while you're going to see in this video, it's very easy to use, but our instructions are very detailed. Our goal is for you to be able to sit down, grab a Coke, and figure out anything you want to figure it out without blowing up our tech line. By chance, if you do need our tech line, I do have 4 guys in there that are at your disposal, and we are more than happy to help you with any questions you have. All right, so let's talk controller. Let's go over here. Ignore this dirty truck. This is our test truck. We use it to run parts, and it's also the truck that we've put through quite a bit of nitrous through testing this controller. All right, so the ProMax is going to come to you in a box just like this. You'll have the part number checked off for which one you have. Okay. You can buy the ProMax. It's just the. Let me tell you what, let me just take all this out. You'll kind of see how it comes packaged. Okay. You can buy just the ProMax itself, and it will come with the harness, the box. By the way, this is a data logger as well. All right. And it'll come with the which one is this one? The laptop 6-foot cable, okay? The box itself with cable and the harness is $475. All right. You can add the touch screen. Oh, sorry, it also comes with the USB with the instructions. The instructions are on the USB, and so is the program, all right? And you can tell, it's, you know, it says ProMax on it, and of course our name. So I don't know if that'll come in, but we actually lasered this with our laser engraver here in house, so we thought it was kind of cool. Anyways, touchscreen. When you purchase the touchscreen will come with the cable for the touchscreen that goes to the box and our touchscreen. The touchscreen is $325. All right, so you're gonna have $475 plus $325. All right, so this unit will control and monitor 3 pressures as far as with our pressure sensors, okay? And that's 2 nitrous pressures and 1 fuel. Now it'll also monitor MAP and speed and RPM and all that stuff, and we'll get to that here in a little while, but as far as like if you bought the basics of what you would need, if you wanted to have the nitrous and fuel shutoffs, you would need our pressure sensors. Our pressure sensors come with the harness, and they're $100 a piece. All right. So if you're adding this up, $475, $325, and if you used all 3 pressure sensors, $100 each. So that's another $300. Okay. All right. We also have packages. You can buy the package of the controller and the screen, or you can buy the package of the controller and the pressure switches. Now, in our package that has the pressure switches and all, it has 1 nitrous and 1 fuel. And the reason why, because not everybody needs 2 nitrous pressure sensors, and so you can just buy that as an additional add-on. So that's going to be the packages that you'll see. This will be live for purchase on our website at the end of today. So 5:30 Central Standard Time, as long as everything goes as planned. Chris is currently in there loading the website and getting all the descriptions on. You'll be able to purchase this off the website as of today and look at the packages and the notes, and the bullet points. All right, so let's talk about, we covered shipping, because I know everybody's going to ask this question. Please pay attention. Shipping. Our goal is by the end of Friday, assuming that instructions are 100%. I have 3 to 4 guys working on instructions right now, reading over it, adding stuff we've missed. The controller just does so much. We're trying to make sure we cover it all. I'm sure we're going to miss a couple of things, and we'll come back and add those in. All right, so, all right, now let's move over to the controller. This is something that I'll show you. This is coming, so I'll just go ahead and show it to you. These are currently being machined. This is our suction cup that goes on the window. This is billet aluminum. And it has a nice snug fit. Controller will slide off in there. It's not going to bounce out. And so we added that on. And I thought that was a cool little part that we've added on. All right. So let's talk controller. The main controller. This one happens, sorry it's routed for you guys to be able to see, but I don't know if you can come in and see this, probably hard from that side, but there's the ProMax. It's mounted in our glove box in this truck. And you guys that don't want the screen, keep in mind that you don't have to have the touch screen. The touch screen just makes it nice to be able to bounce between tunes and do everything the controller does. You can just use the laptop. You can hook up to the laptop, which means you can buy our basic controller for $475 and not need the touch screen. All right, so the touch screen will do everything the laptop does, but view the data logger. So after you make a pass, if you want to see the data logs, you'll have to go in and plug your laptop in and download the data log, okay? All right. Guys, as we go through this, I'm sure there's going to be some things I miss just because doing this on the fly, it's not scripted, it's raw. If you have any questions during the video, ask. Jonathan will read them off to me. Keep them about the ProMax, please. Let's just talk about the ProMax today. All right, so we're going to talk about the main screen. The great thing about our main screen, whenever you look at it, you can currently see the truck's not running, so sensors will jump around on it. But I want you to keep in mind that you can move, call this your information center. You can change whatever you want to read here. You could have RPM, you can move TPS there, speed, air, fuel, nitrous pressure. We can arrange anything we want in these windows, all right? If you look up here, you'll see 2 nitrous bottles, stage 1 and stage 2. This is the indicator that tells you the nitrous system is armed. Whenever the nitrous system is armed, this box will light up yellow, all right? Whenever the system starts to fire, if you are progressing it, you'll start seeing green bars fill up in the bottle itself, and as it goes to 100%, the bottle will turn solid green, all right? This currently is in a mode where we call it 2 output, and what that means is 2 stages. If we have a feature that you're going to love, it's called the air fuel control, and whenever we go to that program, you're going to see these boxes change, and it's going to say nitrous and fuel, and you'll see the differences where we come in there. So I'm going to give you some little notes, and it'll make sense as we go through it. Over here on the right hand side, setup is to go in for programming, and so is the wrench, and you'll see those here in just a minute. Transbrake, retard 1, retard 2. These right here will light up green, so if you're on the Transbrake, this bar will go solid green. It's telling you, hey, I'm on the Transbrake. If you activate the timing retard, once it sends the output signal to your retard box, this does not retard the timing. You still have to have a retard box. Once you trigger so it has an output. Once it sends that output, this bar will light up green as well, and it's telling you, hey, we've sent that signal out. Whenever you look down here on the bottom, this is what everybody's going crazy about. We have it set up where you can say 5 different tunes. So as we go through programming, you'll see. But here's what's awesome about this. For you guys that do quite a bit of racing, think about the drag radial guys or even the no prep guys. Sometimes we get up in the staging lane. We got a hot tune up in it. The guy in front of you oils down the track. the track goes cold, and you're like, crap. You know you're going to blow the tires off when you get up to the start line, but you don't have time to go grab your laptop. Well, I got your fix. Bam. There you go. Got another tune saved. We've set it up so that we're not so aggressive on the ramp. We can come in and literally switch between 5 different tunes just like that real time. So if you see the guy ahead of you roll up to the start box, blow the tires off, or maybe the track has came around and it's on, they prepped it right before your class, and you're like, man, I can get after this thing. It's as simple as just push the button. It's all live data, which is why you're seeing the sensor spats around right now as the truck's just sitting here. So everything literally comes in and goes live. All right, so right now, let's go over to setup. Any questions real quick? Anybody got any questions rolling? No? You want to go to the wrench setup first? All right. We're going to come in here. All right, so if you notice, we hit the wrench, and that takes us into our main sensor setup and screen display and all that. I'm going to show you. First of all, we're going to be going to sensor setup. You're going to notice this controller is so awesome. If you just wanted to change one thing, you don't have to toggle through all the options. You can just come in here and select what you want to change. So let's talk about RPM setup. It's literally, you can come in here and choose what type of coil type you have. So this is coil on plug. It's an LS application. It's got 8 cylinders. If it was waste spark, you're there. Distributor, there. All right. It's going to show, if it was running right now, it would show you the RPM. You can come in and change your number of cylinders and what's going on to get it to match the vehicle. All right. So if you didn't want to use the tack signal, you can turn it off just like that. Everything is touchscreen here, and you'll see if you want to activate it or deactivate it, it's all right here by just turning this on. Hold on just a sec. They're flowing an intake in this video. Right. Sorry about that. They're flowing intakes over on the side of us. All right, so that's nitrous pressure 1. So this is, remember I told you it'll control or it'll read 2 nitrous pressure sensors. So right here you're telling it, yes, I want it on. No, I don't want it on. What type of units? KPA, PSI. All right. Right now we have it set for voltage at 0, and 4.5 is 1620. It's a 1600 PSI sensor. Right here it's telling you the voltage and the PSI that's currently sitting in it. All right. Wideband 1, so this thing will control, it'll read 2 wideband sensors. So normally you will associate that with driver side versus passenger side. So you would come in, choose what type of, again, on or off if you don't want to use it, all right. Choose what type of units you're reading, whether it's AFR, Lambda, all right. What type of fuel you have, gasoline, propane, methanol, yeah, compressed natural gas, is that what it is?
Natural gas.
Natural gas. E100, E90, and E85. All right. So E70, back to gasoline. Right here is where you set your voltage for the Lambda, and you'll see what's going on over here. Again, the sensors, nothing's running, and so you'll just see it like that. And it tells you up here wideband 1 in case you forget what you're working with. Fuel pressure, same thing, PSI or KPA. All right, showing you the pressure here. Here's your voltage and your volt output if it was running right now. Again, on or off. So literally, you're just going to come through here and set if your map. Okay, so this is manifold pressure, right? For you guys that are boosted applications, this is the window you would want to set. In 2.5 weeks, we'll have an update that will go live, and I'll show you how to update this thing. And it's for you guys to be able to use this feature for crankcase vacuum. You know, see if you're out on rings or whatever may be there. All right, so this will be a dual purpose window here. All right, so speed sensor. If you're running your progressive ramp by mile per hour, this is a good area. Right here is kph or mile per hour, pulses per mile, and the type of sensor, whether it's Hall effect, 2-wire. All right, so that's what that window's for. So, and I'll tell you everything that you can progress this controller by here in a minute. So let's just go over sensors. And then again, interval pressure 2, so the same thing that we went over a while ago with interval pressure 1. Wideband 2, same thing we went over with wideband 1 there. And TPS, this is where you would come in and set up your throttle position sensor. This truck has a gauge cluster issue, and so the TPS was jumping around. We have a cluster order for it, and so you'll see TPS open voltage and arm percentage, and right here we have it set to read 50%. So, and the reason why we did that is because whenever you log this thing, the TPS is jumping from like 60 to 100% constantly. So this was our way around it. Now, for you guys that aren't fuel injected, I had a guy yesterday say, hey, does this work on race cars? Absolutely. Here's the difference. Most race cars, if they're carbureted, do not have a throttle position sensor. You would simply turn on the wide open throttle switch by clicking that, and it's just a simple power or ground. Okay? So that's how easy it is to go between a fuel injected car and a carbureted car. All right, so that tells you your sensor windows. All right, so let's back out of here for a minute, and I want to jump over here. It's the other side of the controller, but this is kind of cheesy, but one of my favorite options. So you see right now I have the cable coming in the top. So let's say you mounted this on your window and it's flipped up where the cable's coming in the bottom. Check this out. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, no, that was it. All right, so it's as simple as flip display. So you would simply just go in and flip the display on it so that it's however you have it mounted. All right, so again, here's the windows where you would change what information you want to read in those boxes. So you can literally move TPS, time 2, gear, 1, 2, battery, voltage. I mean, you can come in and put anything you want there so that you can move the information and choose what you do or do not see. All right, so let's back out of here. I want to come down here to backlight because while you guys are looking at this backlight, you know, during the night sometimes you need a brighter light or not as bright a light, and then during the day it's harder to see, so you may turn it up. Right now it's 100%. Watch this, you're going to start seeing it get easier to see more than likely. Nope. The other day, the way we were holding the camera, it was almost impossible because of the lighting to see with it 100% up, but I guess it's not making a difference right now. All right, so anyways, you can come in, and I'll turn this all the way down so you can see. You can literally come in and turn it down. Oh, it did get better, didn't it? Mm-hmm. All right, so about right there. Does that look better, guys?
There was a question if it will interrupt the system if the controller display comes unplugged during the run. It will not.
The way these cables are done, no. I mean, all this is not the controller. This is just the box that's talking to the controller, so everything's still going to work the same way. And these cables, they're not going to come undone. I mean, they're all push locked, so there's no reason for it to come out. It's locked in. Sorry, I let it power back up here. But this is just an information window. It's not the controller, so the controller would still be working. Okay.
Mike Pabon, yes, and we'll get to that here in just a little bit.
What was his question?
Can you set a target AFR using the wideband 1 and 2 where it will disable if it goes over a certain threshold?
Yes, we'll get to that here shortly. Okay, so let's get back over here. I don't want to go to output setup yet. I want to do that last. So firmware update. So whenever we send updates, we do have other things in the work, like a dual wideband of our own, several other things I'm not ready to discuss. But as those items become available to you, you would come in and hit firmware update. All right. Also, this controller right now is set up to control 2 stages. We have another box that will be added on, and so you could control 4 stages, and you would have to update to do that, and you'll see why here in a minute. Data acquisition is where you come in and tell it the trigger type, how you want it to tell the data logger to trigger, whether it's map, transbrake, RPM, TPS. So however you want it to say, okay, at such amount of throttle, greater than this value, I want you to trigger the data logger. So you can set it how you want to control it. All right.
Jason Bruno, it will progress 2 stages as well as can simply control 2 stages.
Okay. Diagnostics, if the controller had an issue, this is the window you'll go in and it'll tell you what's going on with it. All right. About is simply just telling you about what the display version is, all the hardware version, basically what currently is, what program is in the controller. All right, so let's talk about output setup. Right now, if you remember back to the main screen, let's just go there real quick. It's showing stage 1 and stage 2, right? This is the traditional 2 output. If it was 4 stages, it would say 4 output, okay? So, output setup, this is where we choose whether we want AFR control or standard, normal, you want stage 1, stage 2. So right here you got your stage 1 frequency. So this is going to control the frequency if it's 2 output for both the nitrous and fuel solenoid on stage 1. Same thing for stage 2. You can adjust the hertz. You guys will like this. We go all the way from 10 hertz all the way up to 30 hertz. And you're not having to jump around in large windows. You can literally fine tune this. And this window will become important in a minute whenever I show you the fuel control, okay? So,
Chris Keltner, yes, it will control 1 stage independently in closed loop fueling.
okay, and we're gonna get to that in the air fuel control here in a minute too. All right, so this is retard 1 and retard 2. This is where you tell it at what percentage. So in your progressive ramp, let's say you start a progressive ramp all the way down at like 20%, ramped up to 100% within 2.4. Let's say you're racing the mile and you just wanted to run it way out. But you didn't want to yank all the timing out as soon as the ramp started. You could come in and tell it at what percentage of that ramp you want it to pull all the timing out. So that maybe you're a little under timed on motor and you don't want to yank all that timing out immediately because it'll fall on its face. You can also tell the controller, is it pulling to ground or to power? Different timing controllers want either a power signal or a ground signal, and this is how you tell it how it's controlling to trigger the timing retard you have. All right. Again, right here, this is going to match up here. It's going to tell you what output setup you're in. Now, we're going to go to air fuel control. Air fuel, right here is telling you. If you look, it's changed. Right here, look at the nitrous and fuel frequency. Before, it was stage 1, stage 2, right? That's the first thing you're going to notice changes. And that's because, in this case, your solenoids also have to be wired separate. This configuration controls 1 stage, and 1 stage only. And what it does is it puts the nitrous solenoid you wired into the stage 1 output, and the fuel will be on the stage 2 output. So we've taken the controller and we've basically split the nitrous and the fuel solenoid. Timing retard and pull to battery all stays the same, okay? Now remember these hertz, because this is going to help you fine tune in a window we're fixing to go over. So we're going to back out. We're in AFR control. Let's see here. I know I've jumped around a little bit. We haven't even went over progressive ramp. So let's go over to ramp. Ramp works the same way for if you were set up in 2 output or AFR control. And what I mean by it works the same way is we're always basing everything off the nitrous flow, okay? Even in AFR control. So if you wanted to come in and change the progressive ramp, it's simply, if you look up here, you'll see the RPM and you'll see the percentage. And it's just drag, all right, just like this. And then let's say you're like, okay, let's smooth it. Bam, and it'll smooth it. Now what you'll notice is every time we make a change, over here on the right-hand side is your tune 1, tune 2, tune 3, tune 4, tune 5. So you could come in and set up your progressive ramp for every tune option you have and just go ahead and set them up. That way whenever, you know, your different tuning windows are configured. All right, so that's what all this is. The smoothing feature is cool because, you know, it helps instead of having to hold it and bring it all the way down to certain things. So that makes it nice. All right, so in AFR control, and I'm going to jump around a little bit on you because I want you to understand how AFR control works. AFR control, the first part is, remember that everything's based off the nitrous flow. So when we come over, you're going to see a fuel correction window. This is the window I figure most people will get confused on. And so I want you to pay close attention to this. Again, you got your tune windows right here. Notice that's in every programming window, so you can go ahead and program them all and tell them which one it is. Across the middle, so this is telling the fuel solenoid in response to the nitrous solenoid. If it's across the middle, notice it says 100% right there for whichever dot I just touched. That's saying that the fuel solenoid is working 100% in correlation with the nitrous solenoid. So whatever the nitrous solenoid is doing, the fuel solenoid is doing with it. If you had a lean spike at certain RPMs, you could come in and change that percentage. So if you look, it says 75 down here, that's negative 75, and that's, so it's because, I'm sorry, that's 100 across here, so this is 75, so think negative 25%, and then we added 25% here. So if you were trying to tune out a lean spike, you could come in and put, you know, a little bit extra flow, the percentage would be here in that RPM window. And if it was rich in those windows, you could do the same thing. And so what it's going to do is it's going to control the fuel solenoid by that. And remember how I told you hertz? Well, the hertz and the duty cycle is where this is all controlled on how fast the solenoid responds. All right. All right, so let's back out over here. Let's go to system lockouts. System lockouts, I should have covered this while we were in stage 2 mode because some of this stuff moves around. But system lockouts is the same as stage 1 or stage 2 and versus AFR control. So again, if you don't want to use them, turn them off like that. If you want them on, enable it. So in this window, this is your actual RPM window switch, which most people understand is the RPM activation switch. And what it is think of system lockouts as covering everything that either activates or deactivates the controller by a threshold. So in this case, it's saying if the RPMs drop below 3,000 RPMs, I want you to shut the nitrous system off. If the RPMs go over 5,600, I want you to shut the nitrous system off. Again, it's all fully adjustable, okay? Same thing for map. So you guys that are boosted, if you want to control it by manifold pressure, this is where you would turn it on, turn it off, set the low limit and the high limit. Same thing by wideband. Again, these windows will show the real numbers whenever it's turned on and the truck is running. So wideband, you can come in here, say yes, I want it to work. All right. Low limit. So if you go any richer than 10.43, I want you to shut off. If you go any leaner than 13.81, I want you to shut off. All right, guys. I want you to pay attention to this because I know this is going to be one of those technical questions. If your air fuel on motor is 13.5 and you have this set at 13.5, that means, if you had this set at 13.0 is your leanest point, your nitrous system probably is not going to engage, okay? So you got to keep in mind that whatever that high side is, this has to see it in order for the nitrous system to engage and keep working, all right? Because again, it's a cutoff right now. So if it's lower than that, it's already going to cut it off before the nitrous system activates. So, all right. So we'll come back over into fuel pressure, same thing, low fuel pressure, high limit. So right now it's set, any less fuel pressure than 6.0, turn off, any higher than 8 PSI, turn off. Speed, this would be your vehicle speed, all right, low limit, high limit. Not liking my finger there. Nitrous pressure, so if bottle pressure goes any lower than 800 PSI, turn off. If it goes any higher than 950 PSI, turn off. That's what that is. Same thing, nitrous pressure 2, so that's for your other sensor. All right, wideband 2, and then we're back to RPM. All right. Gear lockouts. Gear lockouts work the same way for AFR control, or if you're doing separate stages, again, you'll see the tune options over here to put it in whichever tune window you want. This controller has the ability for you guys that play around on the street or whatever and maybe you're a mile racer and you don't want to spray in first or second gear, this is a feature you will probably like. You could turn it on or off right here. And so it's saying active gear. So right now it's set to 2. It'll go all the way up to 3. So I don't want you to spray in the first 3 gears. So first gear, change, don't spray. Second gear, change, don't spray. Third gear, change. At the end, whenever you hit 4th, spray, right? The way that it's measuring that is by shift RPM and RPM drop. So if you shift at 5600, you're gonna have to tag 5600, and you're saying I normally have an 800 RPM drop. I want you to count that as a gear change. So that's how it's measuring gear change, okay? And it's all fully adjustable. All right. So that goes over all of those features. I know I'm missing something. Let's see what I want to cover real quick. We got RPM set up. We went over setting the different widebands for different types of fuels.
Mm-hmm.
What am I missing?
Did you go over Afr Setup?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
It's on there, the N2O.
Yeah, okay. So while we're in Afr Setup, if you looked at the main screen, notice it says nitrous and fuel. Remember how I said it was going to separate the two? All right, so there you go. You see that. So let's go back into Afr Setup. Afr Setup. So again, with this feature, you have to have the nitrous solenoid wired into stage 1 and the fuel solenoid wired into stage 2. If you want to use AFR enable, you turn it on there. All right. So your ramp type, this is where you're going to choose. Remember the progressive ramp we showed a while ago? This is where your options are on how you're going to control the progressive ramp. You got RPM, you got your start and your stop percentage. Or I'm sorry, in this case, RPM. You got time. I want you to start in X amount percent of time and stop in 10 seconds. So this is seconds, okay? Right here where it says when TPS is out of range time, because it's in TPS. Okay, so I'm sorry. So if you pedal the throttle, you can either reset at the progressive ramp where you left off, or you can hold. So reset means it's going to start over, and hold is going to start where you left off. All right. So you got time, which will be your time-based ramp. TPS. So some of you guys are maybe doing some transmission control might use TPS. So this would be throttle position only, and no, your ramp is just based off throttle position. Map, boosted guys, this is where you would control the nitrous according to your manifold pressure. Hold on. Okay. Vehicle speed, so this would go off your wheel speed sensor, all right. And then we're back to RPM. Over here, closed loop enable. If you want to control the nitrous solenoids and fuel solenoid by the set wideband air fuel set point, this is where you'll turn that on, okay? And what that means is if I give it a commanded air fuel of 12.5, what it's going to do is it's going to change the progressive hertz to the solenoids to try to achieve that 12.5. So if bottle pressure starts going away, whenever you go back to this window right here, and these things are lit up, see how they're active right now? So where the green bars, you would see it, let's say they're completely 100% green, and it's a tad rich because the bottle pressure is going away, you'll start seeing the green drop in the bottle, and that means it's slowing the fuel ramp down. It's trying to correct it. It's trying to give it more nitrous flow than fuel flow. Same thing, if it's a tad rich, it'll start pulling nitrous out of it, all right? Keep in mind that this feature is not for a Band-Aid on a tune-up. That's not what it's for. If you go out and got it in your mind that you're not going to tune this thing, you're going to burn it up. That's not this controller's job. This controller is just strictly to help maintain a average tune of air fuel while you're going down the track. It is not a Band-Aid for a poor tune-up, okay? All right, so Alex shows it. It looks like a lot, but once you play with it, man, you can pick and choose what you want to do, and it's got a lot of features, but you don't have to use them all. Sensitivity. So in this truck, I have an Innovate wideband currently. And sensitivity is how fast the controller responds to the information it's seeing from the wideband. And so you can turn up the sensitivity to where it's responding faster or slower. And so we played with the sensitivity just to get it to match the wideband readout information on the Innovate wideband. Transbrake, if you don't have a Transbrake, you would leave it here. If you want the system to enable on the Transbrake, go there. If you want it to disable on the Transbrake, you would put it there, okay? You're going to notice that this feature is going to move whenever you go over to 2 output. I'm going to show you where it goes. So that covers everything there. Let's go back to 2 output. All right. Now,
Still under
yeah, we didn't go over this earlier. Okay, so we're back in stage 1 and stage 2 output, like as if you were doing 2 stages, or you just simply don't want the air fuel control and you just want to run a normal setup, right? So RPM setup for your progressive ramp. So this is your progressive ramp. It's currently in RPM mode, which is why it said RPM setup. Everything works the same. Smooth it just like that, right? System lockouts, that all works the same that we went across earlier. RPM, wideband, into pressure, speed, all that's the same. Gear lockouts works exactly the same. What you're going to notice is if you split this, that's stage 1, stage 2, right? So stage setup. Stage setup, I'm going to use stage 1, I want to turn it on. So if you had 2 stages and you didn't want to use the second stage, you would go over into that stage 2 side and you would just uncheck that mark, and you can leave all your settings set up, it just won't activate it, okay? Right here, this is your ramp type. That progressive window, this is where, in this type of setup, where you choose what type of ramp you want, whether it's time-based, TPS, map, speed, RPM, okay? This is, in this type of setup, this is where you control the Transbrake. Enables, disables, and don't have one, okay? So, a lot of the features are the same. When we go between stage 1 and stage 2, let's just call that the normal way of doing it. Over to the AFR, a couple things move around. Let's take some questions for a minute. We got any questions?
Mike Pabin had a question about the timing controls being progressively controlled, and they're not.
Yeah, they're not. So Mike, the way that, if you have, let's just say, since I know you guys are mostly LS based, if you had a Lingenfelter controller on the car, the controller will allow you to send full signal at a certain percentage. That's the only thing you're able to choose, is the percentage of where it's sending the output. It will not progressively pull the timing. And that may be something that we have in store for you in the future. But currently it's just a solid output, and you can choose which RPM you want that at. Does that answer your question? Any other questions? I'm going to fire this thing up so you can kind of see this thing run. It'll take a minute, because once you fire this up, the wideband has to heat itself up, and then you'll see it coming around, and you'll see some of the sensors and what's going on. Well, maybe not. Hold on just a sec. We got to dip it.
Chase, no, you cannot activate the bottle heater. That's still going to be through your switch panel.
So you're seeing the TPS, it's out idle right now. Remember I have an erratic TPS signal on this truck. I have the Nitrous system currently set up at 7.5 PSI, the pump's activated. The wideband's binding itself right now. You'll see it jump to 14 here in a minute idle. It takes a minute for the Innovate wideband to heat up. And then right now, it's got 48 PSI pressure in it. the wideband found itself. The truck's idle and it's 32. Minimum time progression is it starts at 0, and then it goes up to 0, and then it'll go, if I remember correctly, it's all the way up to 30 seconds, isn't it? Yeah. So this controller also times out at, what did it time out at? 40 seconds?
60 seconds.
Okay, 60 seconds this controller times out. It takes a little while to run something up that high, and I don't know why you would use it for that. Maybe some of you mile guys. So on the time, I want to say it goes all the way up to 30. It does go 30? Okay. So John said it goes to 30, and it goes from 0. So that would set your, you know, if you came over to ramp setup, and it's in time base right now. I stopped at 21.60 seconds, so that's giving you your time curve right there instead of RPM on your duty. So here's your duty cycle, and there's your time. Okay. One thing about this controller is that it has, I'm gonna shut this truck off so you can hear me. One thing about this controller is it has two 70 amp drivers. So it'll control the higher amp solenoids, no problem. Even with higher amp solenoids on a 4-solenoid direct port, you're at 64 amps to give you an idea what we built this thing for. So like a lot of the controllers out there, you're not going to have a problem with overamping our bots with those solenoids.
And yes, on the time base, it is in tenths of a second increments.
What other questions do we have? I know you guys got to have some good questions for me. Hey, I had a guy ask on the event page about pressure sensors for dual bottle pressure. So remember, guys, I told y'all that this will control 2 nitrous pressure sensors. If you had dual bottles, you could put one at each bottle. If you're like me, I like to have a pressure sensor. This could be more for you race-oriented guys. I have a pressure sensor in the line, and then I have one after the solenoid so I can see at what pressure I'm actually hitting the converter with. So my pressure sensor is actually after the nitrous solenoid opens. So you can have it in multiple places.
Martin's asking how it wires in.
Wiring in is, Jonathan, you've done more of the wiring than I have.
I mean, it's no more complicated than any other progressive controller that's on the market. I mean, it's got, in our instructions, it's probably going to be the most detailed instruction booklet on the market. It's going to go over every single wire, its potential usage, what we use it for, down to color code, gauge, and everything else.
Why don't you quickly tell them kind of what some of the wiring is?
Like your yellow and green, that's your stage 1, stage 2, and black is your main controller ground. The drivers are ground side drivers, so they're actually going to be pulling their ground through the controller. Something like your orange, that's your 12 volt switched input. Your pink and pink black are your lambdas. I mean, I honestly can't remember what every single wire is, but there's 18 wires, 2 of them, it's a 20-pin connector, it's got 2 blanks in it. 2 of the wires are for future expansion via CAN bus, and then everything else has got a 5-volt sensor output, a dedicated sensor ground that you'll use to power and ground your nitrous and fuel pressure sensors. You got your vehicle speed input, TAC input. But yeah, I mean, the instructions, which we will have available online, again, by the end of the, well, instructions probably not ended today. That'll probably be tomorrow.
Because we still need to try.
Yeah, we got to proofread everything, but the instructions will be posted publicly, so you can go through and kind of see what you'd be getting yourself into beforehand.
Speaking of, when you say that, this does have CAN bus built in for some of the future stuff we have coming. Electronic-wise, we have a lot of things in the works. We released this thing last year at PRI, and we listened to a lot of the feedback, and so we changed some of the features when we came back. And then we spent 3 months just rewording stuff and moving features around. Every time I come out here, I find something else I want to change, and I'm like, well, that's going to be another software change, Dave. But because of what we've done and the time we've taken, I don't care who you are, we've made this thing to where you can jump in here if you forgot your instructions and figure it out very simply. In the car industry, a lot of guys that tend to be tinkering with things shouldn't be tinkering with it. They should be paying somebody to do it. And we tried to build this controller to that customer base in mind. So you guys that are a little bit more technically advanced, this thing's just going to be a breeze for you. And you guys that aren't, I'm willing to bet you can still figure this thing out.
All right, Nate Hansen was wondering, how would this integrate with a race pack or grid setup?
This is standalone, different, separate. So if you had a race pack controller, you'd still you don't even have to use our data logger. Which, by the way, do you have a data log pulled up on your laptop, or would you show it?
No, I don't, but
No.
I probably can find one.
Sorry, I don't have the computer hooked up, and I haven't made a current pass since we dumped all the data logs. But the data log will show you, just like a race pack or anything else, it'll show you your RPM, your TPS, manifold pressure, vehicle speed, anything that you've seen controlled in here. You can come in and view data log wise, click on what you want to view and what you don't. If you don't want to use data logger side, you don't have to. Now, if you want to use the fuel or nitrous pressure cutoff features, you will need to wire in our additional sensors because you have the power and the ground and the signal sensor from the controller to work that sensor, the calibration of that sensor. For you guys that already have sensors, if you have a Holley or Edelbrock or a race pack, our controller will work in any sensor 0 to 5 volt. You just got to calibrate it, okay?
Jason Hickle, how many units are out in the field testing and for how long?
We've had a few just here testing. We've been testing this for 6 or 7 months. We have not allowed them to go to any customers. We don't let our customers test for us. We do it ourselves. We have found that by doing that, we can make sure that we have crossed all of our T's and we haven't burned anybody's motor up. I don't like putting stuff out to market for the racer to figure out. That's the reason we're number one nitrous company. That's the reason we're the number one nitrous company.
Chase Mailer, would you wire this directly to the Noid or to the relay?
The controller itself will send the signal to the solenoid. All right, you got two options here. You can run the power side to the solenoid directly from the battery, or you can run it through a relay, your choice. So if you wanted to run the power side through the relay just to power the solenoid side, you can do that. But this is controlling the solenoid by ground.
Dominic wants to know what all comes with the unit.
Okay, Dominic, we discussed this in the very beginning, but I'll say it again. All right? The base controller, which you would have to have a laptop, will come with the box and the harness to plug in your laptop, and it's $475. Okay, so $475. You can add the touch screen with the cable that goes from the box to the touch screen for $325. And if you add our sensors are $100 a pop. Also, whenever you buy the controller itself, it'll come with the thumb drive with the instructions on it and the program. Okay, so. And as time goes on and we release updates, you noticed where we went into the controller here, I discussed updates. You do it with your laptop, but firmware updates is as simple as going here, hit update, plug it in, hit update, and it'll give you the latest update.
David L. Kopp wants to know, with a drag truck like mine with simple MSD 7531 and not many electronics, but a 20-plus-year-old chassis with way too much power, could this benefit me?
Yeah, actually, that's the whole benefit of this is power management. So instead of coming out and just smacking the tire, our goal was to give you more control across the curve, whether it's time based or RPM based, or in your case, David, I know what type of racing you do. Obviously, we work with you. And so in your case, the different type of racing, the advantage of being able to jump in the tunes around the tubes and the tunes and the different progressive ramps according to what the track is doing is going to help you.
All right, Mike Pabin, does it pulse out ground or 12 volt? It is ground. The controller only controls the ground side of the solenoid. Chase Mailer, do you guys make the sensors?
No, we do not make them in-house. We have them contracted to be made.
All right, Troy Burner wants to know, I'm carbureted now, so I have to add oxygen sensors if I want to read air-fuel ratio. Does your box read single or dual oxygen sensors?
Okay, again, Troy, you'll have to have a wideband controller of whatever brand you want. It just has to have a 0 to 5 volt output, and it will talk to our unit. This will monitor 2 widebands. So if you had a right bank and a left bank, you can feed both. And then, speaking of, I miss them. Let's come in here and talk about wideband control. Whenever you go into, let's go back to Afr Setup. Glad you brought that up. Let's go back there. What I missed was, let's go to the sensor. The sensor changes whenever you go to wideband now. Let's just go to wideband 1. So again, that's not the window I want. I forgot what I was doing. What was his question? Oh, the wideband setup.
Yeah.
Let me go into, where's the window that, that tells you I want to work off the right wideband, the left wideband?
Oh, that's under the M2O setup.
Okay. That's why I needed a helper. All right, where are we
That's
at?
going to be under AFR setup.
All right.
Under the closed loop there.
Sensor setup right here. I missed this earlier. So I told you the wideband air fuel set point and the sensitivity, but I didn't cover the wide. So right here you can choose it. I want to work off wideband 1. Let's just call wideband 1 driver side. So I want you to work off wideband 1. I want you to work off wideband 2. Maybe the passenger side bank is leaner than the rider, and so you want it to control off of that. The minimum of both, the maximum of both, or the average of both. So you can literally tell the controller which wideband sensor you want to work off. If you just have a single wideband, well, then you would just do the wideband 1.
All right, Roman Rodriguez, how fast is the processor compared to others?
I don't know the correct answer to that, to be honest with you.
You know, I can say I don't know too much about other people's controller, but I can say that this thing is pretty darn responsive, very quick. Jeffrey King wants to know, are any customers using these on motorcycles?
Currently, no customers are using these. Again, they're just going to start shipping at the end of this week. But there's no reason why this can't work on a motorcycle, and it can read all the way up to 10,000 RPM.
Nate Hansen's asking price again, which we've covered a few times. You'll be able to check it out on our website later this afternoon. AJ Burge wants to know solenoid control frequencies. It'll go from 10 hertz to 30 hertz and adjustable in 1 hertz increments. Terry Jenkins, can the first stage output turn on the second stage?
I don't know what you're trying to ask
Yeah,
there.
I'm not sure I understand the question there either. I mean,
the controller is just an output, and it calls it stage 1 and stage 2. However you wire it to trigger the solenoids is however you wire it. The controller doesn't know how you wire it. It's just in an output.
And also, it's also going to operate off of whatever parameters you tell it to turn on. So on stage 2, it's going to turn on exactly at the RPM or TPS or whatever your input type that you're using for the trigger, and then you can set your ramp accordingly. Calum Romero, does it offer any more benefits over the Lingenfelter NCC 002 besides the touchscreen?
Is that their nitrous controller?
Nitrous Control Center.
Their nitrous controller does a lot. It's not designed to supply that amperage like ours are. That's going to be a big difference. Our controller is going to be easier to navigate and easier to use. But there's also a reason why theirs comes with a spiral notepad, a spiral book for instructions. So that their controller does a lot, and ours does a lot, but they offer different features. So what I would suggest doing is read up on the features that there's offers and read up on the features that are offers, and figure out which one best fits your needs.
Can we expect ET gain with proper usage as other controller companies claim ET gain?
The ET gain is going to be in power management, wheel speed, if you're losing traction, how well the nitrous solenoids respond, the tunability there in the tune-up, like if you're in AFR control mode, clean spikes, rich spikes. Again, the controller is just an information center. You have to be able to tune and program. The controller will do what you want it to do. You just got to know what you're doing.
Troy Burner asks another question. So if I understand right, I can toss in my 300 jets and let y'all ramp it from a 100 off the line and work up to a 300.
Well, think about it like this. It's a horsepower. It's not a horsepower limiting device. It's a traction control device. So if you got 300 pills in it, it's going to progress the solenoids up until so many times per second until it just holds the solenoids open. So it's still the same pill size. We're just restricting flow. For you guys that are thinking, well, I'm going to tune it for 300 and I'm only going to run 150, so I'm going to stop at 50%. No controller is designed to do that. The nitrous and the fuel solenoids respond at different so your fuel's max 55 psi, nitrous 950 psi. Think about what your air fuel and your tune-up is doing during the time it's trying to do that. So with anything, if it's controlling it, that means it's responding to something that's already there. So your best thing to do is not do that.
Chad wants to know, have you tested to see how accurate the progressive is, meaning 50% of 300 is actually 350? Have previously found that others controllers didn't. And well, Chad, we just answered that. It's because it's not a boost controller.
Well, hold on, what he's talking about. So you're talking about if you got 350 horsepower in it and you're talking about trying to cut it down percentage. Solenoids are a mechanical device that's opening and closing, and it's opening and closing so many times per second. So I don't care what solenoid you use. If you think about 20% as 20% of 350, it really doesn't work that way. We can put it on our flow bench, and you'll see sometimes in order to achieve a certain horsepower curve, the percentage that we're thinking will vary. So again, you're just trying to learn you'll learn your setup. Also, the solenoids respond differently, whether they're a small base solenoid with a light piston or a trash can with a heavy piston. So solenoids and the components that you're using will all respond differently, and you just have to learn where your sweet spot is on your tune-up and how your car responds, how the converter couples. All that type of stuff will vary.
AJ Burge, does it monitor current draw of the solenoids and feed back that info?
It does monitor amp draw. Or voltage, I'm sorry, no it doesn't. It monitors voltage in the system. But no, it doesn't monitor amp draw and feed that back.
All right, I think we've reached the end of our, no, we haven't. Derek, it's not for sale yet, but it will be live on the website by the close of business today. That's it.
Cool. I hope we answered all your guys' questions. For you guys that are going to tune in tonight after you get off work and watch this live feed, feel free to ask any questions you have. We'll watch it and we'll answer those questions over Facebook as well. So thank you. We hope you love the controller. We look forward to seeing it in all your cars.